Hey guys, what's up? It's the Culture Detective here investigating your favorite albums, and today I'm gonna do the top 50 albums of 2016 video. So here are the honorable mentions before we get into the top 50. Again, I didn't listen to that many albums in 2016, so don't expect too many honorable mentions. We have Childish Gambino with Awaken, My Love, and it is a pretty beautiful, soulful R&B soul album that's pretty funky and catchy and sweet, something that you wouldn't expect Donald Glover to put out. We have NxWorries with Yes Lord, and similar to Childish Gambino, it's R&B, soul, funk, and it's sweet, soothing, and catchy. We have Vektor with Terminal Redux, which is a really cool technical death metal album, I think, or is it progressive metal? Space metal, that's for sure. Look at the album cover. And then we have Xenia Rubinos with Black Terry Cat, which is a pretty nice art pop album with a few duds in the track list. Similarly, we have D.R.A.M with Big Baby D.R.A.M, which has some real catchy bangers, but also some slower moments in the track list. But here's the top 50. At number 50, a Finnish band, that is Oranssi Pazuzu with Värätelijä. And it is a black metal album that's very flavorful and full of textures. And there's this really nice Viking vibe under it. At 49, Southern Family by various artists, even though it's a slow burner album and it's a country album. But all of the tracks are also really touching, powerful, and beautiful, and pretty emotional as well, and very humane as well. And at 48, Ka with Honor Killed the Samurai. Ka with his very slow flow and his really profound and deep bars with these really moody instrumentals really make this a special album. And at number 47, another Finnish metal band, that is Moonsorrow with Jumalten, Aika, which is similar to that Oranssi Pazuzu album, except it's even more flavorful, even more full of textures, and even more menacing at some points as well. Also, that album cover, really cool. And then after that, at 46, it's Kero Bonito with Bonito Generation. I'm not a huge light-hearted pop guy, but this album has a lot of catchy songs in it that's really fun to sing along to, really fun to dance along to, and it's just a really, really cute, fun pop album. And then after that, at 45, kind of underrated, Parquet with Human Performance, because it has some really solid songs and singles in it, even though there are also a couple of slow and uninteresting moments in the album. I think overall it's a really solid, muscular, post-punk album with this really unique, toyish style. And then after that, at number 44, I'm giving it to the Drones, who is now Tropical Fuckstorm, with Feelin' Kinda Free. They are an Australian psych rock band, and their music is kind of funny, but also kind of grotesque in a way, and it's also a pretty solid album that they came up with. And then after that, it's Segall with Emotional Mugger, or Segall, and this is a really wicked and twisted sounding psych rock and garage rock album. The vocals and the guitars, they're all really shrill and sharp, and the whole thing overall, while I'm not a huge fan of the sound here, it's still a really weird and unique experience going through the album. And then after that, at 42, Solange with A Seat at the Table, with some really compelling, catchy, and also beautiful and soulful R&B tracks. And then after that, at 41, Sturgill Simpson with A Sailor's Guide to Earth, with some really beautiful, wholesome, and soulful country music that's really slow and kind of theatrical, actually, with the exception of Brace for Impact. The whole thing is really sonically consistent, but Brace for Impact is also really catchy and a really good song. Now we have reached the 40s. At number 40, Denzel Curry, Imperial. And Imperial is essentially a collection of really moody trap rap songs that are all pretty catchy and futuristic and moody and wavy, and Denzel Curry's delivery and flow is really strong and muscular, like he shouts half the time. But he's a really good rapper. At 39, the I.L.Ys with Scum with Boundaries, and the I.L.Ys is essentially a Death Grips Detour project with Andy Morin and Zach Hill, and they do make some really, really weird sample-based music here, but all of them are like on acid, on speed. The music in this album is crazy, wild, fun, and kind of gross too, you know, in a Death Gripsy kind of way. And then at 38, Noname, Telephone, and it's a really intimate and soft, jazzy rap album with some really nice personal lyrics as well, which is really cute. And also Noname's delivery is really intimate and kind of sensual, actually, which is really nice. And at 37, Anderson .Paak, Malibu, because this is a really versatile and colorful soul, funk, R&B, pop, hip-hop album with a lot of amazing tracks like Come Down and Heart Don't Stand a Chance. And then after that, at 36, Conor Oberst with Ruminations. Conor Oberst is from the band Bright Eyes, I think, and on this album, he delivers a set of tracks that are really quiet and really lo-fi, indie folk kind of songs, but all of them are actually really beautiful and pretty saddening, actually, in a way. Yeah, I love his voice as well. And at 35, a really special album that I got pretty excited about when I first heard it a few times. It's the self-titled album From Preoccupations. And I actually really like this album. It is a post-punk album, but it is special because it has this really dusty, icy, cold, chilly, wintry vibe to it. And all of the instrumentations are a little fuzzy as well, which is really cool. Even though there are songs on this album that aren't all that eventful, but tracks like Anxiety, Zodiac, and Degraded. And at 34, one of the more interesting concept albums of the decade, it's Clipping with Splendor and Misery. Clipping is a trio. They make some experimental electronic hip-hop music, and Splendor and Misery, while it's not as accessible as Mid-City and Clipping, self-titled, it's a really interesting concept album about a man trapped in a space station with some really amazing, crispy, clean, squeaky clean production and some really interesting sound effects and beats. And again, Daveed Diggs is an extremely talented rapper. He can rap really fast while pronouncing every single word so clearly, and it's a really special album overall. An experience, a very unique experience as well. After that, at number 33, Show Me the Body, Body War, a really angsty, angry, awesome, energetic, raw, primal, punk kind of rap album. And yeah, go watch my review on it. I love the title track. I love Chrome Exposed. The guitars have this raw, twangy edge to it, which I really love. The drums are primal. The vocal performances are really monstrous, and I really enjoy it. And at 32, The Avalanches, Wildflower. It is an electronic album, and there are a lot of songs on this album which are really catchy, fun, danceable, but then there are also songs on this album with guest features, and all of them are actually pretty damn great. The first track and the second track, that is Frankie Sinatra, are two very amazing opening tracks for the album. And yeah, not much to complain about this album other than it's a very, very colorful and versatile and fun electronic album. And at 31, maybe even more fun. Lemon Demon Spirit Phone. It is a pop album. It's really pop. It's pop for the sake of pop. Really sugar coated and also really geeky and nerdy. And it knows that. It's self aware of that. And it makes good use of that. And it's actually kind of funny. And at 30, it's Marissa Nadler with Strangers, which is a set of tracks that are really somber and sad ballads, and all of them are really, really beautiful. The track Skyscraper is one of the better songs of the year, and overall, it's a really haunting album. Yeah, really haunting. Her voice is really haunting. And then at 29, Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds with Skeleton Tree. A really interesting album because it's drony, it's gloomy, and it's dark. It's really dark. Most of the tracks on this album are spoken word tracks by Nick Cave, and the lyrics are really abstract and weird. Ominous lyrics, gloomy production, and it is an album that's really hard to digest. And then after that, at 28, the OCs, or right now it's OCs, with a Weird Exits. And it's a really fun, weird, eccentric punk garage psych rock mix album similar to Orc, except it has more of a demented edge on this album. I love the super energetic and passionate performances and the really weird vocals. And then at 27, ooh yeah, Street Sects End Position. This is a noise punk album that's really nasty, really violent, really rough and abrasive. And the tracks here, they are extremely noisy. They keep on throwing noises at your face, and it's a really crazy experience. It's not just noise because of anger, but it's noise for the sake of noise. The violence, the chaos, it's all part of the very fun and psychotic experience that is this album. It's insane. Love it. And at 26, this is one of the most interesting albums of the year. It is Matmos with Ultimate Care 2. It is an electronic album, and it's entirely made from a washing machine. Even the album cover features a washing machine, and it's really creative. They actually made some really nice and creative and interesting electronic music out of washing machine. And we're at the halfway point. At number 25, I'm gonna give it to Regina Spektor with Remember Us to Life, with a set of really warm and welcoming indie folk songs with a pop edge to them. A lot of them are really catchy, youthful, and lively, but also a lot of them are pretty wild and crazy. In a way, it's fun and youthful and light-hearted, and it's really nice to see a really versatile set of tracks on this album. And at 24, Jeff Rosenstock with Worry. It is an indie folk singer-songwriter album, except it's very much anti-folk because it is not trying to be the, very pretty, gorgeous, medieval tinged Fleet Foxes kind of folk, but it's more early Beck kind of folk, kind of anti-folk. And Jeff Rosenstock really hit the mark here with a lot of strong, catchy songwriting and some really funny and kind of angry lyrics as well. And then after that, at number 23, it's Neurosis, Fires Within Fires. It is a post-rock album that has these monstrous, wild guitar riffs that are just epic, but also at the same time some really low-key and beautiful guitar passages, and together they make this really amazing, beautiful, and kinda sonically polarizing album. And then after that, at number 22, an album full of bangers, it's Injury Reserve with Floss. Yes, there are a lot of bangers on this track that are not that complicated, but really fun to sing along to, really memorable, really sticky and catchy. Tracks like Oh Shit and Bad Boy 3 are already highlights on this album. And yeah, everybody gave really compelling performances as well. Some really cool one-liners and word plays here and there as well. And then after that, an even more interesting rap album would be A$AP Rock with The Impossible Kid. A$AP Rock is not your average rapper. The things he rap about is really weird. There's even a track on this album where he raps about his cat. But what makes his music really interesting is not only the special delivery and flow that makes him sound not gangster, but more freaky in a way, but also the instrumentals are even more freaky, even more tasteful, and more electronic tinged, and they're all really creative and fun. And this rap album, it's really unique, it's really special, and it's not for everyone. And then we are in the top 20. At number 20, we have Nails with You Will Never Be One of Us. A really short album. Even though it's short, actually it's good that it's short because it is a really raw and violent experience from a death metal band that is Nails, and every single track is just so monstrous, just so violent, and also kind of versatile. It's actually pretty amazing they could pull off this really strong and muscular performance. The growls are really natural and really organic and raw, and the guitars, the drums that are mixed pretty much flawlessly. And again, it's a really violent and angry album that actually has the tension and the anger and the heat underneath. That's why it doesn't feel like just a regular, crazy, horrifying death metal album. It actually has meat. It has nails. And then after that, at number 19, you're probably not expecting this one, but it's Kanye West with The Life of Pablo. Yes, and I'm not talking about the initially released version. I'm talking about the latest, the most up-to-date version, The Life of Pablo. And it is, Kanye West, rapper, singer, producer, and this album, originally it's a mess. Initially it's a big mess, but it's improved over and over again, and now we have these really nice and well-produced tracks. And after these improvements, there are some really nice, catchy, artsy rap songs on the album as well, all the way from the really soulful and bright Ultralight Beam to the really controversial Famous to the really danceable, groovy, and slick Fade to the more personal Real Friends. And there are also a lot of other tracks on this album that are way better after it's improved and are way catchier, way more fun, and way more special and unique. Like, it actually brings a refreshing breath of air to hip-hop. And then after that, another mainstream album at number 18, it's Beyonce with Lemonade. It's a legitimately good pop album, dealing with some really personal issues deep down, but also with some really special instrumentation, some really solid features from The Weeknd and Jack White, and I almost said Jack Black, and the catchy, refreshing songwriting, it's there. It's not generic, not at all. And then at number 17, an album that's super bright and optimistic, Crying Beyond the Fleeting Gales. It's so optimistic. It's actually really beautiful. It bleeds positive vibes, and it's very dreamy, really otherworldly. It's like a really sunny day, and you're just levitating above the clouds to see the sun, and it's just, oh man, it's just really amazing. And there are a lot of genres mixed in this album. Some power pop, some pop rock, some psych rock, some twee. I love the sweet, slick guitars, love the amateurish vocals. I love how innocent and young and alive this album is. And then after that, number 16, Kendrick Lamar, Untitled Unmastered. Even Kendrick Lamar's To Pimp a Butterfly leftovers are this good. This album, I'm gonna consider it an album, just shows how creative and versatile Kendrick Lamar is, because every single track on this album is so different, sonically, tonally, instrumentally, so different. And Kendrick Lamar on every single track has a different voice, different flow. There are various beat switches and little instrumental changes in all these tracks, and all of them are really catchy. Some of them are luscious and luxurious. Some of them are more weird, twisty, and otherworldly. Even though the songwriting here isn't 100% spot on like To Pimp a Butterfly, but still, Kendrick Lamar doesn't disappoint at all. I'm gonna review D.R.A.M soon. Anyway, at number 15, Swain, who is formerly known as This Routine is Hell, I think. They are a punk rock band from the Netherlands, and this album is The Long Dark Blue, and it is a pretty depressing punk rock album, actually. Sonically, it's a pretty interesting, angsty, and kind of flavorful punk rock with a European edge to it. But lyrically, it's actually really depressing and discouraging, and it's like all the sad teenager middle age issues crammed into one album. And then after that, at number 14, it's Angel Olsen with My Woman, which is a really sweet and beautiful singer-songwriter indie folk pop album. Some really blissful guitars, but also some slower moments which are folkier, more soulful, more powerful, and more personal sounding. And all of them are amazing. And of course, the vocals are really charismatic. They're really solid, really muscular, and Angel Olsen's songwriting is really special on this album. And then after that, at number 13, yes! Weezer, The White Album. After the first two albums in their discography, which are great, they kind of go downhill from there. But this album, they just go back up. They hit another peak, because the tracks on this album, while lyrically they're not that deep or profound, but sonically, musically, they're all really catchy, really fun, really compelling, and they still has it in them. They still have the young, energetic, lively, indie rock vibe in them, and it just shines really bright in this album. And then at number 12, a really interesting album. Shoo Shoo plays the music of Twin Peaks. They're basically covering the Twin Peaks soundtrack. And it's actually really impressive what they did, because all the covers are really refreshing, really artsy, a lot of amazing sound effects, a lot of amazing production that are really entertaining, weird and deranged and kind of freaky. The whole thing overall is just really entertaining, and it's an amazing cover album. And at number 11, Touche Amore with Stage 4. It is a hardcore screamo album, and it is just so powerful. Powerfully sad, actually, and it's about losing a loved one, and losing a loved one because of cancer, stage 4. And it's just so powerful and sad and emotionally potent that I must put it at number 11, just almost in the top 10. Almost. The performances, they are really so full of emotions. It's actually really powerful, really moving, and all of the guitar riffs and the songwriting here are pretty memorable, pretty sticky, and nothing feels drab, because they really write with emotions. They really write with everything they had. And it's an album that really crushes your heart after listening to it. It's it's hard to go through this album without feeling kind of moved. Anyway, this is the top 10. This is the top 10 albums of 2016 that I really love. At number 10, King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard with Nonagon Infinity, easily my favorite King Giz album because every single track is just so intense, wild, and noisy, especially the first half. It just doesn't stop. It's ruthless. It's relentless. King Giz is a psych rock band, and on this album they go full force. They go full speed. The drums, the guitars, the vocals, they're just loud, fast, intense, unapologetic, and maniacal. And all of the tracks transition to one another really smoothly, and the ending of the album transitions to the beginning of the album really smoothly, and it has 9 tracks, so it's Nonagon Infinity. You can really play it in loop forever, and it sounds like one big song that never ends. And yeah, the performances, they're insane. The songs, they are catchy, they're entertaining, they suck you in, and they're just so loud and noisy. The first track, Robot's Dog, Big Fig Wasp, Gamma Knife, People Vultures, it just keeps going and going and going. Even at the last track, it just heats up and it just goes crazy all over again. It's actually really amazing that the last track, Road Train, it imitates the sound of a train, and it's like chugga 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 chugga. The time signatures on this album, they're really weird, they're crazy, and it's really fun to see this band experiment with these many sounds and time signatures. There are 2 drummers in this band as well. Absolutely crazy. Frenzy. And at number 9, one of the best gangsta rap albums out of the West Coast in the decade, it's YG with Still Brazy. Yes, it's a really, really solid rap album that I have no complaints about. Not that many. All the beats on the album are really grimy, really fun, really sticky and catchy and cool and badass and chill. YG's delivery is actually really muscular, and of course he's a really talented rapper. There are rhyme schemes, word plays, one-liners here that are really amazing, and every single song on the track list also feel kind of different from one another, but altogether they still sound really sonically consistent, and it's a really solid gangsta rap album as well. Also, there are a lot of socio-politically charged lyrics here and there, with some really good points, but also with some really blunt anger as well. And every single song on the track list also feel kind of different from one another, but altogether they still sound really sonically consistent, and it's a really solid gangsta rap album as well. Also, there are a lot of socio-politically charged lyrics here and there, with some really good points, but also with some really blunt anger as well, which is what I really love about this rap album. At number 8, Frank Ocean, Blonde, I Smell Coffee. This is an album with a set of tracks that are really soulful, nocturnal, and beautiful, and accessible, actually. It's not a very exciting album, but it's still a really solid album. There are tracks here that you just really relate to for some reason. From the first track, Ivy, to the track Solo, to the track Nights. Okay, but yeah, this album is really good. Not only is the songwriting really, really good, really catchy, Frank Ocean's voice is one of the best voices of the decade, period. Like, it's really good. The production is high end. It's actually really futuristic and moody and wavy, and it's just top-notch production. And yeah, the whole thing overall is just really beautiful, really moving, and really colorful and flavorful as well. Not the bright, kind of colorful, but the how am I gonna describe it to you? But the, going through the city at night and all the lights just shine around you, kind of beautiful. And then after that, at number 7, wow, what a comeback album. A Tribe Called Quest with We Got It From Here, Thank You For Your Service. I think it's been like 15 years or 14 years since they have dropped an album, and this comeback album is worth the wait. It is a double album, it's huge, but every single track is amazing. Q-Tip and everyone else is amazing on the album. Rest in peace, Fife Dog. Like, everyone involved on this album never skip a single beat. All of them are really flavorful, artsy, and refreshing, but also at the same time, this album kind of brings back the old school 90s East Coast New York hip hop vibe that I really, really, really love. And together, they actually make something that doesn't sound outdated at all. In fact, it sounds really professional. And it's albums like this that proves that hip-hop is a kind of art. And the lyrics here, they are all really amazing. Some really funny one-liners, some amazing rhyme scheme, especially if you're from the East Coast. Rhyming is really important, guys. And yeah, it's amazing. And the features too. The features: Andre 3000, Kendrick Lamar, and the last track, The Donald. Pretty socio-politically charged. Actually, a lot of the tracks here are pretty politically charged, but yet it's not like they're doing it because they want to appeal to millennials at all. They're actually doing it, and they're actually saying something really profound and deep. I can't stop listening to the Space Program. The track Kids is amazing. Ego is amazing. Yeah, pretty much every other track is amazing. And then, yeah, at number 6, oh my gosh, Radiohead, A Moon-Shaped Pool. I mean, I really, really, really love this album, but dude, like, Radiohead's so good. I kind of have to give the top 5 to other bands, but still, I really, really love this album. It is A Moon-Shaped Pool by Radiohead. And at first, I'm not a huge fan of the album, but after a few listens, I love the album. Only one track feels kinda not as interesting, but every other track is either really sad, downtrodden, and gloomy, and depressing, or they're kind of demented and crazy and scary, like Burn the Witch or Full Stop, which has these really constantly repetitive keyboards, but with a really beautiful, warm tone change at the end. We have tracks like Identikit and Present Tense, and all of them are really straightforward, linear songs that are really sad. But again, Radiohead makes a lot of sad songs, but every single sad song they make are sad in a different way, while Present Tense is really milky smooth. We have Daydreaming, which is even more hollow, even more spacey and empty. It really leaves you empty, but at the same time it has this young innocent side, and it's just really beautiful. We have tracks like Desert Island Disc and The Numbers, which are slower and less interesting sounding. Same for Glass Eyes, but all of them are also really beautiful and soothing, and Radiohead has been in the game for a very long time already, yet they come out with an album with such high quality. It's just really amazing. And the album ending, True Love Waits, where they finally put it in a studio album, is a really beautiful ending to the album. And Dex Dark is so catchy, but also really dark. It's like a black hole is forming while the song is happening, and the guitars at the end, oh my gosh. But yeah, I'm getting a little too excited. At number 5, Car Seat Headrest, Teens of Denial. The word teens is in the title, and it's an indie rock album that sounds like a teenager, and right now I'm a teenager, and every time I listen to it, it just feels so relatable, and it feels like I really see myself in this album. Not like I see myself in a character, but like it's like the feelings I have and the music of this album are really kind of speaking to each other, because this album really explores the sadness and the loneliness that is a teenager's life and lifestyle, but at the same time it has its blissful moments, but it's not just pure bliss. It really knows where it's going, and it's the kind of it's really hard to describe this album for you. That being said, though, Car Seat Headrest is a really special band. The lyrics are not poetic or anything. In fact, they're really, really basic. But because of this, their music lyrically is actually really relatable, because Will Toledo is always saying something that's, very normal life, really daily life, and it's always paired with these really beautiful, sweet guitars that are really lonely sometimes, helpless sometimes. At number 4, oh my gosh, Swans, The Glowing Man. This is the third album in the Swans double album trilogy, and this is easily the most meditative and moody and spacey album from the noise rock band that is Swans. Every single track is very flavorful, very full of textures, very artsy and long-winded and dragged, but I don't feel bored while listening to the album at all, because either they're presenting us with this really beautiful and refreshing and artsy ambient droney backdrop, or they're blasting us with this crazy, wild, noisy rock explosion like on the title track or on Frankie M. But yeah, there are songs in this album that are more vocally centered, like the last track, Peace Finally, or Finally Peace, and it's a really fitting and beautiful ending to the album that's like happily ever after. Seriously, Swans is one of my favorite bands, and their music is just really special. And yeah, I mean, you really have to listen to the album. The lyrics, they don't really make sense necessarily, but because of that, it's part of the experience. When you go into Swan's album, you're really in it for the experience. And The Glowing Man is the perfect album if you're in for a very meditative, very cognitive, very flavorful experience that brings you to many different dimensions. Just a totally solid double album. Really deserves a 9 out of 10. And then after that, at number 3, Danny Brown, Atrocity Exhibition. Yes, this album is one of the best experimental hip-hop albums of the decade. His very eccentric and freaky and constantly cracking voice, very special and unique, but also basically every single track on this album are pretty amazing. They're all very different. Of course, there are crazy, wild bangers like When It Rain or Ain't It Funny, which is really jazzy and demented. And we have Really Dough, which is a really solid banger with some really amazing features. But there are also other tracks here that are really just drunken, weird, crazy, and with these really swirly, weird, loose instrumentations and percussions, and it's a really interesting and unique and definitely artsy experimental rap album. Danny Brown is really at his peak on this album, and maybe he'll top that. I don't know. If he does, it'll be amazing. But yeah, anyway, as far as experimental rap album goes, there's one more album that I like better than Danny Brown's Atrocity Exhibition. It's Death Grips Bottomless Pit. Hell yeah! Yeah, Death Grips is one of my favorite bands of the decade, and this album is one of the most accessible albums from Death Grips. It's poppiest. It's the poppiest. It's the most accessible, and it's the most versatile. Every single track has a different beat, different flow, and a lot of them are also very powerful, also very violent and angry, like the usual Death Grips, like Bubbles Buried in This Jungle. Some tracks are really loud, noisy, abrasive, violent, and angry, like Bubbles Buried in This Jungle, or 3 Bedrooms in a Good Neighborhood. But we have slippery, bouncy, light-hearted bangers as well, like Eh. And then we have these really crazy tracks, like the first 2 tracks, Giving Bad People Good Idea and Hothead, where MC Raj just goes blah 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 blah, Hothead. Oh no. Tracks like Houdini and Spikes are some of the catchiest Death Grip songs, and 80808 is a really futuristic, moody, sort of fading in the background Death Grip song, and all of them present a different color, different texture, different vibe, and all of them are really, really catchy because the way they arrange the lyrics into sort of this chant, it's Death Grips is not trying to convey us messages. Death Grips is trying to present us an experience on every single track, and all of them are really different, and all of them are really catchy, pleasant to the ears, and are really amazing. And yeah, pretty much every track is good. And at number 1, I'm gonna give it to David Bowie, Black Star. And yes, rest in peace. He passed away in 2016, and he dropped this album 2 days before he passed away, and it is the only album where its cover doesn't feature his face, but it's a black star, and then he passes away 2 days later. It's almost like as if he knows that he's gonna die. He predicted it, and he turns his death into this ultimate art form and put it onto the album. Yes, it's a short album, and there are a lot of tracks on this thing that are really glamorous and freaky, but David Bowie is self-aware of that, and David Bowie also embraces the fact that he's already kind of old, so he embraces a lot of things like his fragile voice and his voice cracks, like on the track Girl Loves Me. But there are also really sad moments in the track list, like Dollar Days and the album ending, I Can't Give Everything Away, which is sad in context, but actually it's a pretty lighthearted and easygoing track in comparison, because it's like David Bowie finally accepted the fact that he's going to die, and it's like he's saying the final goodbye to us with this ultimate final track, and it's like he is at the gates of heaven and he's sending us a final message. And we have the title track, which is just a really multifaceted, haunting piece of art, and it's freaky and eccentric, but also really beautiful, sad, and incredibly powerful and magical and fantastic and twisted and wicked as well. We have the track Kiss a Pity, She Was a Whore. And again, David Bowie embraces his flaws on this track as well as on Lazarus, but he embraces it with style. And on Lazarus, it is easily one of the saddest songs in 2016. It is so downtrodden, so broken, yet so beautiful, yet so sincere and honest. And the album overall is really an amazing album, and it just really shocks me that David Bowie, at the final days of his life, would actually come out with an album so good, so solid, so amazing, so beautiful, that it ends up at 2016, like 5 decades after he started his career. And I'm just gonna leave it at that. What are your favorite albums of 2016? Comments below. Please subscribe. Thank you for watching.